anyone who's got to deal with government's got to put down on paper why they need to deal with government. What is it that government does which impacts on their business or will affect their business or is going to cause some problems for their business, was already causing problems for their business? What is it? Why is it? And then when you say, okay, I've got to talk to government about this, you've got to really think, what's in it for government as well? Why would government change a policy or a program or a piece of legislation to suit me? Why is it there in the first place? And you engage with government at a number of levels. Firstly, at the public service level. I mean, the public service are the workhorses, they're the arms and legs of government. They do the drafting of policy, they do the legislation, and very often policy makers can introduce things in which the politicians are not fully comprehending of or not aware of the ramifications. So you've got to find a way, how do I then talk to these people? Now, if you don't do it on a normal basis, you haven't got someone dedicated to it, then one of the issues you look at, will I use a firm who has a capacity to actually get me to government? But more importantly, and this is something I used to do, is help me analyse my problem, look at it in policy terms, but also look at it in political terms. There are some PR firms and some lobbying firms whose only role is to get you in the door. You've got to put your case and argue it, but unless you've got that resource within inside your own company, then you really need a firm or a company that's going to be able to do that policy analysis as well and say, look, for these reasons, what's happening to you is grounded in very firm policy, or it's not, and maybe we need to draw the attention of government to the fact that the policy doesn't really address these key issues, or it's inadvertently caught you up in something, or look, it is part and parcel of the core policy, but it should be changed for these reasons. You need the face of the company, you need the CEO or the chairman of the board or someone in a very, very senior position. If you're talking to a minister, it should be either the chairman of the board or the CEO who talks to the minister. If you're talking at the ministerial advisory level, it could be someone down the pecking order, and that same people could be talking to the public service. But equally, don't be shy and say, oh, well, look, I'm the managing director or I'm the chairman, I'm not going to talk to a public servant. A very senior public servant has a very significant influence on policy and therefore should be treated accordingly. But I always used to say to when I was undertaking this sort of work, I will prepare your case, I will help you, draft your arguments, etc. But at the end of the day, if you aren't confident and capable of putting them, then we've got a problem. I mean, very often, the internecine warfare in political parties, be they Liberal, Labor, National, etc., is not obvious to the normal CEO or chairman of the board. I mean, I've worked closely with governments of all complexions over 30 odd years in government, and I can tell you, people get very surprised sometimes at what happens because I think, oh, that's not what I thought that government would do, because it seems to run counter to their fundamental ideology. But a minister has a personal view, and very often the personal view prevailed over the ideological view. It's an evolutionary process, and if you contrast the Commonwealth and the state levels, for example, and some other states other than New South Wales, I mean, there is no less a level of donations going to the major political parties at the federal level than there is at the state level, but you haven't seen those same repercussions. That's because the public sector and the government are seen as quite distinct entities, but both very competent and capable, and you have to work both sides of government in a sense. Whereas in New South Wales, the public services tended to be, I guess, much more influenced by what I call the local politics. And with all due regard to the sensitivity of some state public servants, I think the quality of people working in the Commonwealth public servants is better than that in the New South Wales government. We'll see some moderation over time, because the administrative wings of the parties must be having heart attacks, but there'll be other ways. I mean, at the moment, if you go to a lunch, then that's considered a donation. I guarantee you, under this new regime, going to a lunch with a government minister or a political party fundraising lunch won't be seen as a donation, will be some other form of giving to political parties. an enormous amount of money is being spent on, political campaigns, much to the detriment, I think, of the whole community, because I think the community turns off. I'm one of these ones who believe that, a lot of attitudes are formed over a period of time. Yes, there'll be a small proportion of the public who will make up their minds based on the political campaign and election period, but that's a small portion. Attitudes are formed, and it might not be on all the precise policies, but rather the look and feel and their attitude towards candidates or the Premier, etc. When we're really into presidential politics in Australia now, and so it's a sense, do they like Kevin Rudd, do they like Brendan Nelson, do they like Morris Yema, do they like Barry O'Farrell? I mean, I'd never ever say to people, don't ignore the policy aspects. If you can wrap it up in both the policy and the political benefits that will accrue to a government, you're on a winner. But if you only get one leg of that little exercise, then your task harder. Politics will prevail over policy invariably, but if you get policy and politics matching, then you're on a winner.